Hi, and welcome back. So up to this point, we've built things in Illustrator a couple different ways. First, we took a look at shapes, and we were able to build things almost kind of like Legos, where we built upon predetermined shapes and put them on top of one another. Sometimes we Pathfinder them together and made new shapes, and essentially we built stuff that way, and it worked out really well. After that, we took a look at things like our pencil tool and our paintbrush tool and more of our organic kind of freeform tools like that. And that also worked out pretty well. Next, what I'd like to show you is I'd like to show you our pen tools. And our pen tools are some of the most important tools that we will have in Illustrator. And there are a few of them to kind of point out. So if I click and I hold down on the pen tool, I'll see the traditional pen tool, the add anchor point, the delete anchor point, and then what's known as the anchor point tool. And then next to that, I see this other pen tool that's got a little line next to it, and that's known as the curvature tool. We'll take a look at just the regular pen tool to start with, and then we'll kind of go from there. So the pen tool, what it is essentially is it's probably Illustrator's most important resource. While you can draw with shape and while you can draw with path, utilizing the pencil, paintbrush, and those kinds of tools, the pen tool just gives you a amount of control that the other two ways that we've drawn up to this point just don't give you. It's not that those are bad ways to draw. In fact, they're perfectly good ways, and I use them all the time. But the pen tool allows for more again, control than anything else in the software. And there is a learning curve with it, and I won't lie to you, 20 something years ago when I first started learning how to do this stuff, I was frustrated with the pen tool. And it's going to be okay if you're frustrated too, so that's fine. Practice will make perfect, though. I can promise you that for sure. So, you know, it's quite all right. So the way the pen tool works is it's built on a series of points and paths, just like everything else in Illustrator. So when I go ahead and I click, I create that thing called an anchor point, and when I go ahead and I move my mouse, I create a path. Okay, so everything we've seen in Illustrator up to this point has been built on those points, those anchor points, and the path that generally comes between the two of them, and it's no different here at all. So the cool thing about the pen tool is it can create all different kinds of shape. So I'm going to start out and I'm going to create mechanical based shapes. So we're going to take the pen tool, and when creating mechanical shapes, your first click is always a single click no matter what. After that, what you'll see is you'll see a little line. Now, if you have an older version of Illustrator like CS6 or something like that, you won't see the line the same way that we are seeing it here. It'll just be invisible, and then when you click, the line will appear. In Creative Cloud, it shows us where that line is going to go, which is kind of nice. It gives us a sense of what's happening. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pull my mouse over here, and I'm going to click. And I'm going to come on down here, and I am going to go ahead and decide, where I want it to fall. That looks good. And notice it's a straight line again, so I'm going to just click. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'll zoom in so we can see where we're going. And I'm going to go right back to where I started. And you're going to see next to the pen tool, there's that little circle that we saw when we were creating things with the paintbrush and the pencil tool. Or excuse me, not the paintbrush tool, just the pencil tool. And that shows us that we're closing our path. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And there I've gone ahead and I've closed our path. And it's become an actual shape, just like any old shape. And you're correct, it's a triangle. And why would I use a pen tool to create a triangle when there's a triangle tool? Sometimes you just do. Sometimes you can create shapes that are similar to the mechanical geometric shapes that we have. Other times it makes perfect sense to just use that shape. For example, I don't think I would ever try to draw a circle with a pen tool. It takes too long, and I'm a human being, so I'm going to screw up. Not when I have a perfectly good ellipse tool and I can draw a circle that way. So always please remember, work smarter and not harder. Use the tools for you. It's one thing to put limits on yourself as you're learning, so then that way you go ahead and you really master tools. But after you've experienced them and used them quite a bit, it's quite all right to fall back and use a bunch of different tools. It would be silly to, build a house only using a hammer and nails just because to prove you could. So when you could use a bunch of other tools and fasteners and things like that. So please, work smarter, not harder. So mechanical drawing is definitely something we can do with a pen tool. Now I'm going to do a little bit more mechanical drawing. So I'm going to start with a single click, and I'm going to go up, and I'm going to hold down the shift key, and you're going to see that what I get with the shift key is I get this line that is going perfectly up and down. If I move it a little off to the edge, it juts into a 45-degree angle, or it'll turn into a horizontal line. So I'm going to go straight up with this. And again, I'm going to hold down the shift key the entire time, and I'm going to build almost like a crude cityscape. And all I'm doing is I'm doing single clicks, and again, holding down that shift key, and what that's doing is it's just keeping my angles together with either 45-degree angles or 90-degree angles or 0-degree angles. So again, just creating kind of a really crude skyline here. It's not meant to be anything fancy. Luckily, I have my smart guides working for me, and voila, there I've gone ahead. And again, this is a very mechanical drawing. I held down the shift key the entire time, which kept my lines constrained, so they went straight up and down, straight left and right, or at a 45-degree angle. I can go ahead and I'll move this over here, and I'll just draw again, same kind of concept without the shift key, and you'll just see that I can make this drop in different kind of angles. Now, which one is quote unquote right, which one is quote unquote better. That's for you, the artist, and you, the designer, to figure that out on your own. While I can go ahead and say that one is better because it's quote unquote straight, and this one is better because it's got character. You know what? They're both good. It's whatever one that I feel I need to use for my given assignment. But either way, mechanical drawings, straight lines, single clicks. That's how this tool is used when you want to do these sorts of things. So, go ahead and give that a practice. Now, along with that, we can create organic tools or organic shapes. And I'm going to do it again with a single click to start. And I'm going to come on up here, and it's going to look like I'm going to make that triangle again, except this time I'm going to click and I'm going to hold the mouse down. Okay. And as I hold the mouse down, I have my finger pressed down on the mouse. I'm going to pull the mouse downward. And what you see is this curve starting to appear. Now I'm starting to move the mouse upward again and going kind of towards the top left of my mouse pad. And you see this different kind of curve. These are known as Bezier curves. And I can spin my mouse around and you can see how the curve kind of changes. Notice the point that I created doesn't move. Okay. All that's moving is the actual curve itself. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a curve that's going to kind of come around like this. Now, one of the things that we create when we create a Bezier curve is we create handles. Okay, so this is the first handle. This is the handle. This is where we came from, and it shows us how the curve is moving down this path. And then we have the second handle, and this handle tells us where we're going. So if I go ahead and I continue to draw, you can see how it's guiding my drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click and I'm going to pull, and it guides my drawing again. It has me follow that handle, that forward-facing handle. So that looks about right. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to close my shape. Now I can close my shape with a single click just like that, or I can go ahead and I can close my shape and I can hold the mouse down, and then I can pull it some more as well. And then I can go ahead and I can apply a curve to this as well, just like I did before. Okay. So when I apply the curves, okay, just be aware that they all kind of work in tandem together. So you could accidentally throw off the look of one point in one curve as you're making another one. So that's just something to be aware of. And here I go. I've created a kind of an organic kind of shape. Kind of could look like a piece of candy corn maybe, or like, a crude kind of like, angry evil eyeball or something along those lines. So that's drawing organically. Now, when you're drawing organically in Illustrator, something to point out is this. So we'll go ahead and we'll do the same exact thing again. I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to click and I'm going to pull my shape out, and I have my handles. Again, I have the handle where I came from, and I have the handle as to where I'm going to go, and I'm going to follow that handle, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create that same kind of shape that I did a second ago. Now, just like when we were playing around with the other shape tools, we have the ability to utilize our selection tools to go ahead and move this shape around, to rotate it, to scale it, to do all those sorts of things to it. Now, that's cool and all. We also have the ability to use the direct selection tool, or the white arrow. And then when we select our objects, we get these things again. And again, check it out, guys. It's the handle. So I have that ability, and we saw this already when we were taking a look at some of the geometric shapes and modifying them a little bit. We saw these handles, but now, we've actually made them and we've drawn with them and we've seen what they can do for us. So we can go ahead and we can remodify our shapes after we draw them. Okay, so, and again, we can do this with the direct selection tool or the white arrow, however it is easy for you to remember what it is. But we can modify these things as we go. And I can go ahead and I can click on a single point and I can move that point just like before. I can click on a single point and take a look. There's a rounded part to this point. I could go ahead and round that off if I want, or not. I can mess around with that a little bit more. But again, this is all the pen tool, and then modifying the pen tool utilizing the direct selection tool. Lastly, what I can do is I'm going to do that same thing again, single click, and I'm going to come on up here, I'm going to click and pull, right? And again, here is the software giving me that forward-facing handle, trying to help me out. Well, I don't want the software to help me out, because what I want to do is I want to create like a line that kind of is hard here and kind of pointy, and almost create like kind of like a tidal wave kind of thing. And I can try to do it with this. I can try and click and pull, and instead of a tidal wave, I end up kind of like with this weird like kind of shape, like it's like, an elf hat or something like that. And that's not what I'm looking for. So when I get into those situations, what I want to do is this. I'm going to zoom in to the last point that I just created, okay? And take a look at my mouse. See how it's, we have this line and it wants to go there. Instead of, following that path, I'm just going to click on the last anchor point that I made. And as you can see, next to my pen tool is a little upside down V. We call that the caret. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the caret once. And look what happened. The back handle is there, but the forward facing handle is gone. What that means is that I can go ahead and I can, stake out any path that I would like. And I don't have to follow a predetermined curve or a predetermined angle or anything along those lines. So I'm literally going to click and I'm going to pull, and check it out. There's that sharp kind of shape that I was talking about. All right. And again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on that last anchor point and see, I'm going to look for that upside down V or the caret. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click and pull, and I'm going to go in any direction that I want. And you see there's not a forward facing handle that kind of leads me in a way. I'm making my own path. I'm choosing, the path that I want to choose. So I'm going to go ahead and put this here. Now, one of the things that you can't do when you have that forward facing angle to help you out is you can't also make a straight line. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to do a single click. And when we do that, we get a straight line. And I'm going to go ahead and do another single click. and another single click, and I'm going to close this shape off. So what I have now is I've got this weird shape that's created with this curve, and then this hard kind of pointy curve right here, and then another curve, and then straight line, straight line, straight line. So what I've done is I've combined mechanical type shapes and organic type shapes together to create this third kind of shape, simply known as a hybrid shape. And that is something that you'll find that you do a lot in Illustrator, is that you create these hybrids. So again, I'll make a single click. I'm going to click and pull. I am going to go ahead and click right on my last anchor point, look for the upside down V or the caret, and I'm going to hold down my shift key so I can make a straight line off of there. And I'm going to create this hybrid like shape, which includes an organic Bezier curve and then sharp mechanical lines to create this shape. And again, this is something that you will do in Illustrator on an absolute regular basis, where you combine these two techniques of organic and mechanical drawing. And sometimes I go ahead and I will still allow the forward handle to exist. Whatever's going to give me the best curve, the easiest curve, is, in my opinion, what's right for me. So, as you're experimenting and as you're drawing and playing around with these sorts of things, I want you to just try all different kinds of mechanical drawings, organic drawings, and these hybrid drawings. I can't watch you specifically do this, but give yourself 5 minutes of drawing mechanical, 5 minutes of drawing organic, and then another 5 minutes of drawing these hybrid drawings. And what you'll do is you'll get a good feel for the pen tool. And the one thing that you want to try to stay away from, though, is this, is when I go ahead and I create a shape, and I'll make it a curve, and then I kind of cross my own paths. You really want to try to stay away from that as much as you can, because when you go to color this at a later time, it's going to get all weird, because what we've done is we've enclosed a space here, and then we've also enclosed space here. So when I go to color this, that's what I get. And I can't select this piece here independently of this piece. It doesn't work that way. So you really want to go ahead and you want to try to avoid kind of creating those like figure eight type shapes where you're literally crossing the path as you draw.